Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to be adding some functionality to an otherwise useless space behind this cabinet door here by installing the Rev-A-Shelf tip-out tray. Part of the installation we also need to add hinges, one on each side, to make this work. Let's get started. First we need to remove the door face, which for this cabinet style just pops right off with a little persuasion. They have these plastic clips that are just stapled on here, and they attach here, which are also just stapled on. I do have a screw here that runs through into the next cabinet to hold it all together. I can temporarily pull that out to remove this. Depending on the style of cabinets you have, you may have a top and bottom. These look basically the same either way, but I'm just going to mark the top so I know which one it is. Now I'm going to remove this hardware. I'm just going to use a little flat blade screwdriver to get the staples started prying up. You might have to just give it a little tap underneath. Once you start getting them out, I'm just going to use the needle nose to finish it off. Looks like the bottom one's coming in the top one. These are garbage. You can get rid of them. I'm going to repeat the same with the staples that are holding this on. Just be extra careful, especially if you're working with brand new cabinets. Once you get them out most of the way, you just kind of wiggle them the rest. So this one I got the screw in, so I'll take that out first. And I'll put the screw right back. So we're going to lay out on the door where the opening is. So we know we got 1 5/8 inches from the bottom of the countertop to the top of the opening. So to keep a 5/8 gap from the door to the countertop, we'll just subtract that from our 1 5/8 inches, it's just 1 inch. So I'll make a mark of 1 inch. We'll do the same on this side as well. So now we'll get a measurement of the opening, which is 4 3/8. So from that 1 inch mark, we'll measure down 4 3/8 and make a mark. I'm not going to draw lines out, it's not that big of a deal, but just gives us a rough idea of where the opening is going to be. So I suggest taking the tip out tray and just placing it in, make sure that there's not going to be any obstacles, make sure it's not going to hit the sink. And here I can pretty much go anywhere I want and it's not going to hit the sink. So just double check that before you screw anything to the door. So now that we know the tray is not going to be an issue, any placement would be fine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to find the center of this door. It's 32 2/8, so the center will be 16 1/8, and I'm going to make a mark. Next, measure the tray, which is 22, and divide that by 2, you get 11. So from the center, I'm going to measure 11 in each way, and I'm going to mark it out. So then that's going to put us in the center of the cabinet right where we want it. Okay, just place it here, mark up your lines. That should be good to go. Just make sure you're not above the top marks you made or below the bottom marks, and then it will should fit just fine. So the two mounting holes are slotted. So what we'll do is once we get the placement we want, we're gonna make a pen mark right in the top of the thinner portion of it. Once you have your spot where you want it, just go around with your pen or pencil, make your mark. To determine our hinge location, I'm going to get a measurement of this opening. We've got about 29 3/4. Now that we have our measurement for our opening, I'm going to divide that measurement by 2 using the same center point we had here. I'm going to measure outward each way. So 29 3/4 divided by 2 is 14 7/8. Once you have each side marked, now we can now figure out where the corners will be, and that will help us with determining our mounting locations for our hinges. To make things easier, I'm going to use my speed square and just draw a nice vertical line on that last mark we made. So this is the hinge we're going to be using. As you can see, when you mount it, you have to keep this back off from the face of the cabinet a little bit. It's going to be maybe like 1/8 of an inch off. So don't keep it tight or the door's not going to sit right. This little screw here also adjusts how far it opens. So if it opens too far, tips out too much, you can adjust that. It'd be easier when we're installing it to have it in the open position. Just be careful when you're closing it because this thing kind of is a little wicked. It goes pretty quick, so keep your hands out of your way. This way you don't get any pinched fingers or anything. So here you can see where I marked out. This is going to be the bottom of my hinge. This is going to be the side here. So what we want to do is you see these little like rivet heads down there. That's going to create some height difference for when we install this. So we want to leave it up a little bit below the bottom line that we made and just on the inside of the vertical line that we made. All right, once you have that, we can mark out where the holes are. And we'll have to repeat the same for this side. You can see the hinges are opposite, so you can't really mess it up. So once we have this marked out, we can start pre-drilling the holes. I always like to pre-drill. Just start it with a little 1/8 inch drill bit or whatever size you need. Just makes the screw go in a lot smoother. I marked out and pre-drilled the holes that we needed for the new holes that I drilled. So let's just get these put in. We still have some play left or right in case their adjustment is need to be made, so you should work out just fine. Like I said, I always like to just go in, back out a little bit when anytime I'm working on anything that could be an issue if it splits or cracks. Alright, so that feels pretty good. Let's get this other one. Okay. Now that those are on, we can begin to start mounting the door. We're going to mount the door front. Just line up the pre-drilled holes that we already made. I'm just going to use a screwdriver to get them started. There's one on each side, so then I don't have to hold it. That's one. After all the screws were installed, I set the hinges to the desired position by adjusting the hinge limiting screw.
I decided to use double-sided tape to secure the tray to the cabinet door. As I said earlier in the video, the thickness of the center panel of my cabinet is very thin and I did not want to screw into it. We are mainly storing sponges and brushes, so the tape will be strong enough to hold the weight. Lastly, I added the felt pads to the back of the cabinet door to protect the finish and act as a sound dampener. So that's it. Thanks for checking out my video. I used a 22-inch Rev-A-Shelf tip-out tray. You can purchase them from anyone who carries Rev-A-Shelf products. I ordered mine from the same place I bought my sliding pantry shelves. I made a video on how to install the sliding shelves. If you haven't checked that out yet, please do. I'll put a link in the description.